Hi, folks. You're with us today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about if you're a white boy, trying to get a job these days. Now, I've did a video a few days ago now about this, where I noticed that white men, straight white men, wanting to get jobs, especially in some of the bigger firms or the government departments where affirmative action and quotas and all the gender and race quotas is a big thing. Because remember, they're bringing over vast numbers of brown and black people into the West and then giving them jobs through affirmative action and so on. So this just squeezes white people out. The local white people are effectively being denied employment opportunities simply because of this. So what some people have been doing is manufacturing a victim point so they can appear on the victim totem pole. So identifying as they're identifying as a woman, they're transitioning to another gender, they're a cross dresser, or they're doing as much as they can to be able to accumulate some victim points. Say that they're a gay cross-dresser, and no one really is sort of able to question these things now. It's politically incorrect. So you can say, I identify as a black lesbian and that sort of thing, and these can earn victim points. But the real sort of traction seems to be, if you're a straight white male, you can play the health. I've got bad health card, and this seems to somehow acquire an extra dimension of victim points that can actually beat ace the opposition who may be black lesbian, well, maybe not black lesbians, because you can't get much more victim points than that, but where you can still be in with a decent shot for the job. So here's a guy, and this is a guy I spoke to him directly, and so this is really, this video is about him. So he's applying for a job, and it's all these very politically correct committees where there are committee interviews or panel interviews where there are the three black lesbians and the three this, and everything's all very affirmative action. It's very affirmative action place, but it has a number of conveniences that he it's not far from where he lives. He can walk there and this sort of thing. So he kind of wants it for lifestyle issues as much as anything. So he decides to tell him at the interview he's had 2 heart attacks and a stroke, or 2 strokes and a heart attack, whatever it is, and he could die any minute and this sort of thing. And so he plays that one. So instead of playing on his skills and credentials and really the only thing they're interested in isn't skills and credentials, it's certifications. Do you have the certificate for this? And as long as you've got the certificate, or they have you must have a certificate or 5 years experience in that field, that sort of thing. As long as you can do that, then that sort of puts you into the field, and then it's a case of how many victim points you have, because they got their quotas and so on. So they have to really appoint or hire a victim of some sort. You can't, if you're a straight white male saying, hey, I'm the guy for the job because I'm expert at this, and I'm the the guy who's going to make it all happen. Finish. You got zero chance of getting a gig. Zero chance. In those environments, particularly where there is a heavy layer of affirmative action and race gender quotas. So the guy says that he senses it's not going to go anywhere, and so the panel of black lesbians, proverbial black lesbians, isn't. You can tell. So then he starts the story about the heart attacks and the strokes, and suddenly, according to him anyway, he suddenly got their attention. They're suddenly interested in him as a candidate for the job again, or an applicant for the job. Whereas he figured they'd written him off. Hey, straight white male, get the fuck out of here, you damn Nazi. But he cloaks himself and clothes himself in victim points, and suddenly he's the go. Now, as it turns out, the person that they gave the job to, the affirmative action, the proverbial black lesbian, she quit on the first day, so they came back to him and offered him the job. So, but once he's there, remember he's working alongside like the whole group's affirmative action. His boss's affirmative action, his boss's affirmative action, and he readily concedes nobody there knows what they're doing. Nobody cares. Everyone's just time serving, and they're a passenger. They're not doing it. Don't want to do anything, and the idea of having to do work is quite foreign to these people. They're going to do as absolute minimum possible, and they just want to pick up the paycheck. If anyone gets heavy with them, then they can scream racism or misogyny or something like that. So anyway, he sort of had this, and he's telling me this. He had the view: does he work hard? Does he work up to the best of his ability? And he realizes his ability is like 2, 3, 4 times more than any of his colleagues. They are really affirmative action hires. So there's a couple of them he thinks mean well, but they're trying hard, but they're so stupid that they can't do anything anyway. So he just made the decision to retire, a bit like all the people who used to work in Eastern Europe and in the Soviet Union, because they wanted to achieve full employment. They did it through strange ways. So they did it with there'd be one broom, but there were 10 people, and they'd all take turns using the one broom. So no one actually did any work. They maybe work half a day or something like that per week, but everyone still got paid the same. And so why should they go out of their way to work hard? So he looked at it like this: no one else was working hard, no one else was doing anything, and he I think correctly determined that if he did work to the best of his ability, that he would alienate the others, and they would complain about him. They would claim he was a racist or something, and so he made the decision to slow down and just sort of coast at a slow speed, just go along with what they did. So he's sort of lowered the temperature. So he arrives sort of one minute to 9 or whenever the starting time is in the morning, and he leaves sort of 1 minute past 5, and he does just the absolute minimum amount possible and takes as long as he can in doing it. And he's not deliberately doing it. He's just going at the same pace as the people around him. And he's actually getting used to it. It's just like, he's like it's on a vacation or a holiday or something like that. He says there's absolutely zero stress because he's not worrying about meeting deadlines or producing quality work on time or to meet some, independent standard of quality or whatever. He's just cruising. And because they're all affirmative action people, again, including his boss and boss's boss, nobody wants to pressure anybody to do anything for fear of it's going to upset someone along race or gender or transgender lines. So he slowed down to the minimum, and he's saying whereas he could do 4 or 5 units of work a day, he's doing sometimes 1 unit, sometimes not even that. So other than the boredom, they just tell each other stories and they chat, and they get lots of coffee and so on, and there's a reasonably well stocked staff canteen of biscuits and cookies and muffins and whatever. So he really just does that, and he said when you accept, this is his view, when you accept that you're not required to actually produce or do productive work and produce something, once you start getting into that mindset or accept it because that's what's going on around you, he said it's actually quite, in a perverse way, quite liberating, because sort of all stress is gone and you're not worried about anything. No one's going to fire you because, if they did, they'd be called a racist or something. So he said there's no accountability. As long as you don't murder somebody, then you're kind of okay. And so it's lowest common denominator. Now, just imagine, though, if you multiply this across millions of people, of workers, and across many industries. And I think we're really heading in that direction in the West, certainly in Australia, heading in that direction now. A lot of it really is only 2 things: do no work and avoid accountability. So if you're forced in a situation where you have to make a decision, then you try and make sure it's a committee decision, and you do everything you can to avoid accountability and responsibility. And that was another comment that he made. Nobody wants to be accountable, so everything they do is really with an eye to, will this make me accountable? Will I be responsible for something? Can somebody blame me for anything? And in which case I don't want to do it. So people are even given fairly simple tasks, but if they divine that may mean they're going to be accountable for an outcome, then they avoid it. Oh no, I don't really want to do it, or I'll do it provided 3 or 4 other people are with me. So this sort of thing. Now, you see that sort of attitude in a lot of public service departments, but maybe not quite to this extent that this guy's talking about. But there's the consider the economic implications at this, that millions of workers who are striving to do good work, productive work, quality work, satisfy customer needs and so on and so forth. Now they're not. Now these people, or certainly in this instance, and I think it's widespread, I see it a lot, that there's so much affirmative action hiring and so much avoidance of holding people to an independent, impartial, standard that really everyone, I think, is not everyone, but there are certainly many people, and increasing in number. Because remember, the countries most of these black and brown people come from, they've got no tradition of hard work and industry and so on. Far from it. Far from it. They're just there as time servers, and they're coming en masse to Australia. So they're changing us. We're not changing them. And so the productivity levels of workers in many industries are going to just go down the toilet. And this guy who's hardworking, productive, I want to do good work, I want to help the customer type guy. He's now just given up on all of that. But it began with his need or requirement. If he wanted the job, he had to be a victim, and to keep the job, he has to be, he has to just be someone who just a passenger on the train as it's going along, who does nothing and avoids doing anything and avoids all accountability. I mean, it's a scary scenario when you think about it, because what made the West richer and far richer and better organized than all the other parts of the world was this work ethic, this idea of doing productive work. It was I traveled the world many times over in business, and that work ethic was close to being uniquely Western. You rarely saw it in other parts of the world. Occasionally little pockets here and there, but very rare. Yet it was all over the West. Now that's being lost, and the effect on Western wealth will be catastrophic. You've been with Tasteless today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.